Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. It's no exaggeration to say that I've been looking forward to this episode ever since I started the show, because as regular listeners are no doubt sick of hearing, this podcast grew out of an interview I had with Tatiana Maslany 3 years ago. We talked about the movie she was promoting, Kaz and Dylan. We talked about her show, Orphan Black. And then we ended up talking about Under the Skin for about 5 minutes, and it was just the best bit of the interview. It was also the bit that I couldn't use in the interview because it was utterly irrelevant. But it was also the bit where she was the most her, I was the most me, and it felt like there was a real conversation happening. So a few months later, when someone asked me what I would do with the podcast, this is the kind of thing I thought of. So thanks, Tat. This literally wouldn't be happening without you. So, my guests this week are Tatiana Maslany and Tom Cullen. They're phenomenal actors. Tatiana in Orphan Black, for which she finally won an Emmy last year, and Tom in Andrew Hay's Weekend and on Downton Abbey and Black Mountain Poets, which should be available over here any day now. You can see them being phenomenal together in Joey Klein's The Other Half, which hits VOD in Canada today and opens in US theaters on Friday. Tat and Tom chose There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson's epic 2007 drama starring Daniel Day-Lewis as an oil man named Daniel Plainview who carves his way through America in the early 1900s, and Paul Dano as the preacher who believes he stands in his way. It's one of the last great cinematic epics, mammoth in scope while intimate in focus, and it was an absolute pleasure to get Tat and Tom hopped up on sugar and roll into this recording. One small note about the sound. Circumstances required us to tape this episode in a room with a window that was open a crack, 20 feet away, and some traffic noise crept in. Hopefully the conversation is interesting enough that you won't mind. I certainly didn't. This is Someone Else's Movie.
We just both looked at each other, and that was the one that came up, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've always said that I'll just drop in and watch a scene, and then I end up watching the whole movie.
Right. Yeah.
And I just do that like three times a year.
Since it came out.
Yeah.
It's always been that.
But I haven't actually watched it for ages, so it was nice to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was different. I hadn't seen it for about a year, I think, since we watched it over 2 nights this week. And it looked different to me. Like something about Paul Dano's performance was different to me this time.
How so?
Because I don't know, and I just I saw it a bit more. I think the first time I saw the movie, I was in the Varsity VIP, so it was like...
Oh, so you're locked in with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're living with, with like, there's only like 20 people in there with you, but you're all there because you paid a lot more to be there to see it, so it's like a special thing. But I just remember being so, like I was laughing through the whole film out of shock. Okay. Just out of excitement and shock at what was happening on screen, like the performance.
It's pretty audacious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you mentioned Paul Dano, and even though I've seen it a whole bunch of times, every time someone mentions that there's anyone else in the movie besides Daniel Day-Lewis.
But see, that's...
Like, oh, that's right, he's in there too.
That's exactly what it felt like. Seeing it now, I was like, oh, right, he's in this movie, because I'd only ever just remembered Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he obliterates all comers. Like, that's the whole point, right? Like, he's alone in the beginning and he's sort of alone in the end, and that's all you take away is this continuum of whatever it is he does, this rage, capitalism-based thing.
Yeah.
The son of, I think I called him the bastard son of Mr. Burns and John Huston's Noah Cross from Chinatown, but that implies that those things are precedents. I don't think, I really don't think.
Daniel Day-Lewis based a lot of his character on John Huston.
He said that,
really?
yeah.
His voice, and watched a lot of, I think Paul Thomas Anderson was sending him a lot of interviews and films, and in the kind of like 20 years that it took him to prepare for the role.
Yeah.
Yeah. But didn't he come with a different voice? I heard that he came with a certain voice to set.
Oh, interesting.
This is all like hearsay. I feel like there's so much myth around.
And they were like, no, and he went back for another year.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, we have to stop production.
I'm not sure if that's
It's
true.
a fact. It's a fact. It's what happened. Yeah.
I could actually see Anderson being that supportive of Day-Lewis.
Totally.
Because that's his thing. Like, he'll get behind his actors and encourage them to anything, everything.
Yeah.
I remember reading an interview with Paul Thomas Anderson where he was talking about The Master, and he was like, I love actors. They're just such idiots. They'll literally do anything that I asked them to do. Anything. He was talking about Joaquin Phoenix. And just, yeah, he would do anything I asked him. He'd die if I asked him to do it.
So those fluids he's mixing are real, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just, photo fluid, whatever.
Totally.
It's, but this is also the most... It stands out to me amongst all of Anderson's films because it feels like the one that is least showy. And it's all overwhelming assault of imagery, acting, music, everything, but it doesn't feel like it feels of a piece. So watching it again, I just realized, oh yeah, this is just as audacious as anything in Boogie Nights, and just as like balls out weird as anything in Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love. It doesn't come across as a look at me sort of thing, because I think Day-Lewis is doing that.
Yeah, I think that's obviously what happened, wasn't it? Watching it again, he holds the camera in big wides and holds it for a really long time, and just allows Daniel Day-Lewis to do his thing. And maybe they're a great combination because he can trust Daniel Day-Lewis to do a lot of that work for him.
To like live in the frame.
Yeah.
Just in his physicality alone, I feel like so much of the story is told. Regardless, just him walking through that field in that one when he goes to see his son, when his son comes back, and you just see like labor. You just like, I always think he looks like my grandpa how my grandparents walk, because they built houses and they built cabinets their whole life, and they've got like this body that is in the
broken,
busted up, like, bent legs, and like
gravity has worked more.
But he does just like live in the frame fully. He's like always alive.
And it feels like as far away from him as the camera might be, he can still reach it. He's projecting that far somehow. It's Paul F. Tompkins has talked about acting his one scene.
Did you listen to I Was There Too? Yeah, we listened to that as well.
Which is sort of the mirror image version of this podcast.
Yeah.
It's about people who are in things as opposed to people who contractually can't be in things. That they're talking about. But the idea of, well, the way Tompkins describes it is that he comes up against Day-Lewis's intensity and is just, as an actor, knowing he's perfectly safe, is still freaked out and terrified by it. I've encountered that 2 or 3 times in situations that are completely professional otherwise. I interviewed Ralph Fiennes once, and he's an intense guy. He can be, we were having a perfectly cordial conversation. It was about Coriolanus, and then gradually he started telling me about this one sequence where he's close, like nose to nose with Gerard Butler, and before I realized it was even happening, he had his hand around the back of my head just to show me how close they were. And it's like, I'm in a scene with Ralph Fiennes. I don't know how this has happened, but this is I have no prepreration for this. Nothing I have ever experienced is doing this. And then 2 days later, I'm in a room with Gerard Butler, and he's doing the same fucking thing.
Really?
Telling me about his scene with Fiennes, except for the hand. He just brought his face really close to me.
No way.
I get it. Like, I get this sort of weird animalistic thing that comes on to an actor when it's happening. And it was utterly alien. But in the film, you can almost see it radiating between Tompkins and Day-Lewis. Like, it's there. It's physically there.
Well, and also I feel that so much. I think that's what I was really seeing in Paul Dano's performance, was like, because he'd had no prep, right? You said that he was like,
this is the thing.
He came in late, and it was like 2 days prep or something. And thrown in with Daniel Day-Lewis, who has this like extensive prep and is so living the character. And I feel like, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson does this a few times in his films, where the acting process is actually the scene. Like, the scene is about the process of an actor who's not as prepared as the other. And how does the prepared one, like, dismantle the other? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I do.
And it's the same as in The Master. There's almost this like Meisner thing that's happening between, do you remember with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix? And Joaquin Phoenix and a bunch of characters. But there's like Meisner that's happening on screen, but it makes so much sense for the story.
I can't conceive what it would be like to show up and be suddenly responsible for acting. Just to even to just not break character seems impossible, especially against Daniel Plainview. I'm not even going to talk about him as Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
He's so completely not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
In that, and then to watch the film just sort of roll forward, we're introduced to him as an animal. He doesn't speak for the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There's just no dialogue, and
Apart from, I think he says no.
yeah, that's right.
When
When he starts to slip, right? When he starts to fall. In the press screening that I saw, which was the second one because it was opening in January in Toronto and it was screened late because Paramount didn't get it to us in time. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we missed the first one. So I went to the second screening and there were people who were back from the first one, which is just unprecedented. Like it's unheard of in critic circles, as far as I know, that quickly. There's so much else to see, and people, no, I'm carving out 3 hours and coming back to see this again.
Wow.
And it played like 2001. Just that bleak landscape stuff at the beginning. It feels like the dawn of man, and then there's mirroring at the end with the bowling alley that almost feels like it could be the hotel room at the end of 2001, that there's some kind of echo thing going on.
Reference well enough.
It's just like it starts with savagery and ends
he actually wanted to paint the bowling alley completely white.
Oh, really?
In honor of Kubrick. But there was something about the house, because the house was owned by a guy that he built. He was an oil man who was an oil man.
Yes. We're all gonna be doing this by the end of the show.
I'm really sorry. I'm being tired.
No, you're not. You're being contemplative.
And we can cut around stuff if you want to.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Just pause.
You were speaking of the oil.
It's like something Tahini or something. I can't remember his name, but Paul Thomas Anderson drew a lot from this guy for Daniel Plainview when writing him. And the bowling alley is actually in this summer house that this real life oil man had built for his only son, and he wanted to paint the whole thing white in honor of Kubrick. I think a lot of it had to do with actually Clockwork Orange.
Oh,
That
right.
makes sense. Yeah.
That because that brutal beating, it feels really Clockwork Orange. But the house is being sold, so he couldn't do it. He was going to paint it all white and then restore it again.
Oh, weird.
That was
a house? That wasn't a set?
It feels.
No, it's a real
feels
place.
Like there's no back wall, right? Doesn't it feel like a set? Like it feels like a contrived, created structure.
Yeah.
Although so much of the film does, and it was shot outdoors.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the film too, is it doesn't feel like the world outside exists. It's like, it's so, even though there's these wide expanses of space and they do travel, like it revolt, like he is the center of the world. Like I really don't, and I think maybe it's the time too, and what's going on in his head, which is just like forward and like him and like singular. Like it's just like, I don't picture the outside world happening
Right.
while he's just expanding on this one area of land.
Which actually, he's creating it. I mean,
Yeah.
which is the other metaphor with capitalism versus Christianity, basically. I mean, just the way that he's constantly being pestered by religious figures, and they're all the same guy. But Eli comes, Eli goes. There's all this stuff that's happening outside his purview. But you're right. Unless he acknowledges it, it's not real. It might as well not exist.
Yeah.
It's this rapacious robber baron thing.
Yeah.
That's so thrilling, but terrifying. Because again, I don't want to be in a room with him ever.
No.
I
would have loved to sit opposite him though. Holy shit, as that
'cause you wanted to
character.
kiss him.
Just because I wanted to kiss his face. So handsome.
Now, is this Day-Lewis or Daniel Plainview?
Daniel Plainview.
Because it could work out.
I have to say, Day-Lewis, when we watched interviews after, I was like, oh no, I like him better as Plainview.
He was wearing a silly shirt though.
He was wearing a very silly
And a
shirt,
silly
very
hat.
silly hat.
Yeah.
Perhaps
But-
it was an attempt to get away.
Yeah, right. He's like, look how different I am.
Look at me, I'm actually a clown.
Yeah,
I promise I've not eaten anyone.
yeah,
Because he's like, that's not...
He just turns up in all black.
yeah.
In like a
He's
neutral
like, I'm just a
mask.
blank slate.
I don't want you to see my face.
Yeah, he's Banksy.
He speaks to an automated.
Yeah,
It could be Banksy. I would probably believe it.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis is Banksy.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has the time.
It's happening.
I mean, one
We're
assumes he
outing
works so
him.
infrequently.
totally.
Apparently, Paul Dano's first film after being cast as Eli, his first scene in the film that he shot was the scene where Daniel Day-Lewis shoves his face into the mud.
Of course it is.
I'm gonna bury you.
Yeah.
And then shoves mud into his mouth.
Yeah.
I think that as any fear that you have of as an actor that you're going to be working with Daniel Day-Lewis, as soon as you've done that, I think you'll be fine. You know?
There's nothing you can.
The back has been broken.
Yeah. There's no more like submissive you can get at that point.
Paul Dano's performance in that film is interesting, though, because I watched it this time and I did get I got a lot of sense of fear from him in terms of the work, and I think knowing that he only had a few days, I noticed that he was holding on to a lot of his words and I think against the ease of Day-Lewis, it really stood out because he's emotionally incredibly brave actor. He's so committed to every moment. Paul Dano. To every moment, it's fearless.
Yeah.
But there felt like there was something holding him on, and it was. I don't know whether it was the script or the language or.
But it's also like I was thinking about it after too. It's also kind of the job, the character. Like you were saying, some of it felt a bit rehearsed. But his sermons are rehearsed probably. And he is he's an actor.
Yeah. Oh, Eli.
Right? Like
rehearsed.
Eli's an actor. Yeah.
I have no question that he's.
Yeah. Like even.
He's rehearsed the speeches he's going to give people when he's not.
When he's not
like
on.
His final thing about asking for money, you can see him slide into the prepared.
Yeah.
Well, what I want is sequence, but he's also so. Yeah, he's so tremulous around Plainview because he knows he could set him off at any minute. The volatility of the performance opposite him is kind of priming.
Well, and he's the only one who doesn't buy it. Like, he's the only one who's not like, I am moved by the Spirit. Like, there's that amazing scene, the I abandoned my boy scene, which I just love. And I hadn't noticed how there's a moment where after he has this big kind of expulsion of this real feeling of I abandoned my boy, where you do see his humanity.
The closest thing to a person.
Yeah. And like regret and then Eli does something that Daniel Plainview doesn't believe.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's like, oh, fuck you. And he just starts mocking him. And it's like from deep truth to like the cover again and the cruelty again and the masculinity again and like the power just comes back in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's all on his face and it's just so thrilling to watch. I think that's why I laugh when I watch it, because I'm actually like, it's like
thrilling. Yeah,
it's thrilling. It's like being on a roller coaster. I just want to be part of it. I want to know what that is. I want to like be in that, you know. And
it lets you breathe with it too in a weird way. It's the energy of the film just pushing and pulling, and the pendulum of power swinging in that one scene is incredible because it goes on forever and it's merciless
and it's one take
and it's
incredibly brave.
And it must have taken, I assume it took a week like to get that one take that they used, or it's the only take they shot.
I think it's the first take that they shot,
really
actually. And so that was Paul Dano's second day of filming
again.
So Paul Thomas Anderson went, right, Daniel Day-Lewis has just shoved mud into his face. I'm going to make him do the scene where he has to. And so that's why apparently he was slapping him because the day before he had been beaten up. Yeah, and so he was like, I think the slap is unexpected. I think that's why the laugh is so genuine, because I think it takes Daniel Day-Lewis by surprise.
So great.
But in terms of the rhythm of the film and those scenes, that's what's so incredible about the filmmaking is that he trusts his story and his actors so much that he was able to go, right, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to hold the camera, I'm going to get no coverage, and that it just works. The whole film, it just works, and it's so brave because he isn't able to, in the edit, fix it or change it.
Yeah.
It takes an immense amount of trust. It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Or maybe he did get a load of coverage, but just this one take was perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if you can. I mean, I don't know how you can ask your actors to do that over and over again. Although if it's the centerpiece and they know that, that's probably like everything else is sort of a cakewalk. We're going to do this now.
Yeah.
But to do it so early in the shoot, it's almost as though he's trying to get, just in case Day-Lewis kills Dano by mistake or something. How many? This is my theory is that at the end of the film, he's not eating steak. He's eating the last guy who played Eli Sunday.
Oh,
or the last guy who came asking for money. It depends. It works in universe or out.
Yeah.
But the intensity that the intensity that Anderson demands from his actors is just so. It's unlike anything else in any of his other movies. Magnolia's has lightness and darkness, and Boogie Nights. I mean, it's a comedy right up until it isn't.
Yeah.
And this is just, hi. Please place your throat in this grabbing machine at the very beginning of the film. We'll stay here for 3 hours. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, totally.
The comedy comes from the release of tension, and we're still terrified, but you get to go, that's funny.
Yeah.
There's nothing else like it. The master is weird and off-putting intentionally in different ways, and Inherent Vice is relaxed and funny and strange in a different way. But there's nothing else like this film.
No.
And I'm so glad you guys picked it, because not just because it's a great actor picture, but it's also a great director picture, and you can approach it from either way. But I don't know that there is another thing like it. I mean, my comparisons to 2001 are strictly formal. I don't think that you could argue the same intention, other than the unknowable alien thing that lurks in the middle of the movie, which is the monolith in one and Daniel Plainview in the other. But it's so... Yeah, it's so unique. It is so unlike anything else that exists.
I think, and it's interesting because there's such a tension to it, but there's such a lightness to the way that it's done. Like there's an odd. You know what it is? It's got this thing where, like, we were watching that one scene where he's just like on the horse and they're like measuring the land.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just them, like, walking on horses, measuring the land. But the music is like it's like so high. It's almost like it contrasted in such a bizarre way.
Yeah.
Keeps this, like, and I normally find music to be extremely manipulative in films. Like, I'd rather there was, like, if it's there, it's got to be, like, kind of experiential as opposed to telling me what to feel or whatever. Right. But it's so loud in this, and yet I don't feel manipulated by it at all. It feels like it's almost.
No, it's not. It's not like. It's not kind of like meant to be this subconscious kind of like low drone that comes in at the moment you're supposed to cry.
Right.
It feels like a very essential part of the makeup of the film. It feels like another character of the music, I think, and I feel like it's often in tune with his inner feeling. So at the point that that Tat's talking about, he's forgotten about this one guy who he's trying to get the land from, and the guy, he wanted to speak to him and he didn't go. Bandy, because he had eventually come round, but he doesn't. So he rides out to see him and he's not in, and they are just riding and sticking these stuff in, but the music is like the pinnacle of a thriller. It's like, this is the scariest
like the
moment.
Climax.
The climax.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the noise in his head.
That's the noise in his head, totally. And it's this frustration and this rage at himself, that this inner kind of turmoil, that he might have screwed it up. The whole thing. He might have made a mistake. And
you're both physically, like, pulling into yourselves, remembering this moment because of the tension. It's incredible.
But I'm also just realizing, like, I literally don't know what happens in this movie. I've seen it probably 50 times, and like
you don't know what happens in any movie.
And I'm like, oh yeah, right. Like, I I don't know how I experience movies, but it's by no means plot-based at all. Like, I literally don't understand.
That's a very pure actor in when she works. What makes her so good is that the work that she does is so in the moment of what is happening in that scene. And so we've been watching The Sopranos recently, and she was just sat there with this big smile on her face, and I went, God, I feel really sorry for that character. She went, why? I said, well, because of this and this and this. She's like, who's that? I was like, he's the guy we saw in the last scene. He's like, is he? He doesn't know what's going on, but really enjoying the scene because he's enjoying the acting. And I know why you like There Will Be Blood, because the acting is superb. It's just a really fun performance of like emotional commitment.
And I get his I get his journey. I feel it, but I couldn't. But if you were
it's like just a
tell
drone,
me the plot of There Will Be Blood, I'd be like, Tom, go on. Like, no clue.
But the film isn't really about a plot. It's not.
It's him. It's just him, isn't it? It's just his like.
It's just a man's journey through. It's like a drone of aggression and.
But I love then too that he's able, like, amazing work on Daniel Day-Lewis's part, because it is so much about masculinity, and we were talking about that. You're like, it's such a masculine performance, and yet his voice is there's a lightness to his voice. There's a musical kind of quality to his voice,
it's that
like
lilt. It's the way that he brings things up and brings them down.
Yeah, exactly. Like a da-da-da-da.
Very nice.
Years of practice.
Yeah.
It's like sitting opposite.
Well, I have to grab your head and
yank it.
But how did you grow that moustache?
I had it in my bag. No, the voice is immensely fun too.
It's so wacky.
You want to be his friend, and you know he will eat you.
Yeah.
The appeal of the character comes through. You spend, because that first 15 minutes of silence, he's, you cannot help but root for him because you've watched him fall, and this is all about a man who is struggling. So I'm on his side.
Yeah.
And then you realize what he's struggling for and what it means and where it's going, and you just gradually fall away from sympathy, except when he speaks, because again, he's wheedling, he's selling, he's seductive, you want to be part of it.
Is it like a salesman, like a old-timey salesman voice? Like there's
like
something
a
about
barker.
An old-timey salesman.
Ye oldie salesman.
Oh yeah, one of those guys.
But there's something very un-nowadays where people are, it seems to me, there's such a fear of, at least I do this and I notice this, a fear of music in the voice, like of, especially men. I'm speaking on behalf of you guys, but like from my perspective, watching it, the way masculinity is portrayed is it seems rigid and constrictive, whereas he is there's like his body is masculine, and yet the way he holds the baby, the way he lets the baby pull on his mustache, there's like a surrender there. There's like and the music of his voice, it's like, it's not cool. Like, it's not a cool cowboy voice. It's like a right? Like, what am I making?
No, it's
do you know what I mean?
It's like an unguarded vulnerability. Maybe he doesn't even know he's doing almost. Sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
there's this great bit where Paul Sunday.
Yes, the first Sunday.
Yeah,
the first of the two Sundays.
Yeah, clone.
Yeah.
I made an Orphan Black reference then.
Don't do
that. Did you notice?
Yeah, cut it out.
I said clone.
Cut
No, Clone Sunday could be.
Clone Sunday.
On Sunday, there could be a whole bunch of Paul Danos running around in 1915.
I mentioned that.
Doing stuff. Sorry, you were saying.
For once, Paul Sunday does this deal, and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Interesting, he does a deal. Okay. Sorry.
Turns around and says something along the lines of, if I find out that you've lied to me, I will find you and
we'll take back more than what I'm owed or something like that.
You understand that, don't you? And he does it in such a light, very matter of fact, very honest way. That is, I think a lot of actors, men, and I think you're right. They have to push and work for that masculinity and that fear and that danger, and it's so effortless for him. He trusts the character so much. He trusts the reality of it. He's not working to scare somebody, and I think that gives him, Daniel Plainview, there's something ferocious about him. About the matter of fact of the violence that he's capable of.
I think it's the way Daniel Day-Lewis can read an actor. I feel like I'm watching him read his scene partner all the time, for just as an actor, like as an exercise, like that he's just saying the truth, like he says the truth simply. And
it's
then
true. He never actually lies to anyone, does he? I mean, he swindles once or twice.
Yeah,
that's why he's the ultimate hero.
Yeah, he's open about it when he's doing it.
Yeah.
He, in the same way that Richard III, I think, is the greatest Shakespearean hero, because he's the only person that's going around going, "I'm going to do this, and I've got blood on my hands, and I'm going to really fuck everyone up, and it's going to be messy. Watch this. This is fun."
Yeah.
And everyone else in Richard III, are pretending that they are good people, but at no point does Daniel Plainview pretend he's a good person, and for that he
just puts his kid there as like the buffer.
Yeah,
sure, that's a lie. That's his salesman,
and it's a great prop.
It's a great prop.
Or selling. That's how you do it.
But he's a hero because he lays out what he wants and he gets it, and he doesn't care if people like him. And there's something so sexy about that, and admirable. Like, I think the human condition is you just want people to like you, and constantly searching for validation and appraisal and love, and Daniel Plainview doesn't need that, and I think it's fun to watch those characters. I enjoy watching Daniel Plainview because in lots of ways he's exactly who I want to be. The relationship with the kid is really interesting, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing.
And how Daniel Day-Lewis plays with the vulnerability of seeing this person who loves this kid, and that watching somebody grow up is so exciting, and how hard it is for him to admit that.
That's true, because he's pushing, like, all the things he extends to him are the things he immediately tries to take back in a weird physical way. Like, he'll just pay attention to him and then sort of completely shut off and do something else in a given scene, other than But
I think everything revolves around the kid, actually. He shuts off because he feels like he should, and the guilt that he drives him about the kid, about him being deaf, about him sending him off, it hurts him so deeply. And there's when he has the fake brother come and he talks about the father, and he says, the father's obviously had a relationship with other women and what that's done to him, and that he is such a solo man. There's so much pain and hurt. I just think that he plays those moments with the kid so well, so perfectly judged. It's superb.
It's interesting that there's no relationship.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever even seen with a woman. Right?
No, there's like the one scene where his brother is in the brothel, I guess, and he's giving him money to go with the woman that's laughing off screen. But Daniel Plainview has never seen. The only woman he has interaction with is that little girl. Is the little girl who?
Yeah.
Who? There's no female. Like, and his mother? Is that who's in that photo? There's something with his mom.
At least he says it is.
Yeah. But there's just nothing. There's no. He has no person. He has nobody.
And I wonder if that's like his relationship to the earth at the very beginning, if that's some kind of weird metaphor about having come back out again. He doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
Because all he ever wants is related to the earth. It's the oil, it's the money that comes from the oil, it's the domination of this thing that tried to kill him once. Maybe that's it. He just has no other appetite.
Yeah.
Except for the thing at the end.
Yeah.
I think he wants honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's all of those things driven and wanting power and money. But in every relationship he has, all that he asks for is honesty and connection and reality. I think the Kieran Hines character, he likes him so much because he trusts him and it's a real relationship. But I think the reason he hates Eli so much is because he knows that he's bullshitting. And what's he's got an incredibly strong moral compass. The fact that he protects that little girl from being abused by the dad, but the honesty thing, again, it kind of leads back to the fact that I think he's the ultimate hero, and he I'm going to actually just stop because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. But
the honesty thing's so interesting, though. I just keep
sketched idea.
No, it's cool though. I keep because he is like a bad guy. He's like
I mean, objectively, he's not a good person.
Yeah.
But he's also clearly the film's hero.
Yeah.
And I've been wrestling with this for a while. The last couple of years, he's not wrong. Like, he's defining the way. If the movie is about capitalism versus Christianity, or at least the interplay and the push and pull between the two, defining America for the 20th century, which is my pet thesis. Just because Anderson started off by trying to adapt Upton Sinclair's Oil and then went off totally in his own direction with this fictional story he wanted to tell. That seems to me to be the thing that pulls, because it's what pulls in the book too, about how the oilmen came and the world changed, and how everything would be different after that. And Plainview kind of has the 50s and 60s and the 80s and 90s, and certainly where we are now. I mean, that's, without trying to bait you into a political conversation about the immediate present, that's where America's going. Like, he sees it, and no one else does. And so in that way, he is, if not a literal hero, he's the visionary. He's the man who sees the thing that no one else can see and runs with it, which in any other movie would make him the hero. The guy who invented the alternating wiper got a movie. The Flash of Genius with Greg Kinnear. It's not very good.
And me. I was in it.
Oh my god! That's why I came up with that. Must be why I thought of it.
I was in it, and I wrote it, and I offended.
Well, I don't blame you.
You were great in it, though.
Oh, thanks, Tom. You saw it. He did not see it. I don't think I've seen it.
It's not very good.
No.
Okay, that's bizarre.
Sorry,
not since I put on
Greg.
Survival of the Dead and snapped my head around to see you in the first 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Diary of the Dead.
Diary of the Dead, see?
Diary
This is how bad
I
it
like
is.
the idea of the survival of the
That
dead.
was the one
That's
afterwards.
the next one.
Oh, that is
That was the one
Yeah.
that followed up, and Simon Pegg
dead
had
and trying
a
to
small
survive.
cameo in it, and I was really upset that I wasn't in that one.
Because you didn't get to kiss him either.
Didn't get to kiss Simon Pegg.
But surely there's a possibility of this happening somewhere down the line.
Tom?
You can make phone calls.
What were you saying, though? You're saying...
He was asleep at the time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is this a theater school story? Is this one of those things that I'm going to hear about?
No, it
Very
was
upsetting.
I did my first job was with Simon Pegg.
Which one? Wait.
It was called
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. And
Directed by Edgar Wright.
Directed by Edgar Wright. I was in drama school. I wasn't doing acting. I was doing acting and physical theatre. I was interested in movement and dance and whatnot. And these guys came into college, this casting director, and made us all put on these black cloaks and run around. And then we had recalls, and then I ran around again in a black cloak, and then we all went and filmed as basically we were just glorified extras.
Yeah.
And then I got selected to be the glorified extra. And I filled in for this black cloak figure that's running around killing all of the...
Oh, so you're the featured hoodie.
He's the guy.
I had no idea.
But
Is that crazy?
I wasn't... So we wore tights over our head.
Right.
And this hood. And I remember the second AD wouldn't let me take it off so that I could breathe. So he's made me sit in this chair with this thing on for the whole day, and so I just sat there. So I was just this faceless person, and then I ended up working with that AD on another film that I did, where I was one of the leads.
Okay.
And I remembered her, and I remember going, "So you don't remember me, but I remember you, you vile, vile person."
And I couldn't breathe.
And
And I nearly died on set.
Yeah. And then I met Edgar Wright a few years later and embarrassingly told him this story, and he didn't care at all. He was like, "Cool, go away."
It's all in the service of the picture.
Yeah.
I was almost going. I mean, I still probably could. I was going to write a book on Sean, just a little one, a little pop classic.
Can I talk to you about
You
it?
absolutely can.
It's like that. There Will Be Blood, that, and Women Under the Influence are my top 3 favorite
I
films
know.
of all time.
Ben Lewis said that once you heard
Yeah.
that Women was taking, that you would probably go for Sean.
Yes, if Tom hadn't been here, I would have gone for Sean.
I would have happily done film.
We could do separate
You don't know
stuff
enough
later.
about Sean, Tom. I can quote the bloopers to Shaun of the Dead.
Have you met Simon Pegg?
No.
I have.
No. Lucky.
He's pretty
In a
cool.
black mask.
He does. I discovered we've met a few times and he's forgotten me subsequently.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean,
What
I
bastard.
can't blame him. He's got stuff going on. I've interviewed him a few times. The last time I was over the phone, and then I ran into him at TIFF for Kill Me 3 Times, which is the Australian film he made. He plays a killer. Teresa Palmer's in it, and
Oh, cool.
Mark Webber. It's okay. It kind of goes sideways. I'm sorry. The film critic in me has to be honest with
I was
you.
in that film. I'm just kidding.
You were the third bullet.
Yeah.
But we came into the theater at the same moment in the Scotiabank, and I just said, "Oh, hey, Simon," just reflexively, and he said, "Hi, mate," and it's like that's what you say to people when you don't know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, buddy.
Yeah, everybody has.
man. Oh,
Everybody has a reflection. Hey.
Oh, how have you been?
I did, and my problem is that when you have these conversations with people, podcast or interview, whatever, there's an intimacy that naturally happens, and people become friendly and all that. And with Peg, our 3 or 4 sit-downs over the years have been fun enough that I instantly lapse into, "Hey, how are you?" And of course, he's talked to 5,000 people since me,
Right.
and that's totally fine. It's weird the intimacy that you assume with things, with people, with properties, with stuff that you love. And with Sean, for me, it was just like I pitched Edgar on the book when he came through for The World's End.
Yeah.
And we almost got it at, it was going to be an ECW Pop Classics, one of those little books. So we'll push harder. I mean, there's definitely a place to have this conversation.
Yeah.
But,
my God.
But yeah, no, Sean's wonderful.
What do you
It's
mean you
so
were going to
good.
write a book? Would it-
Literally a pop culture classics book, which would then be chapter by chapter.
like
I can
a-
send you the pitch. I got the
Oh,
Tracy written.
please.
You mean like
Oh, sure.
like an essay about the film, or
Yeah, no, a complete. I was gonna with interviews with
Oh, cool.
cultural impact because I do think.
Not one person who'd buy it.
Yeah, I would buy it in a heartbeat.
in?
I used to have a Shaun of the Dead action figure.
Oh, I still do.
That tall guy with the cricket bat.
No, oh no, I have the kid gave me the Sean and Ed dolls that are this big.
Oh, mine was like a big, fully articulated. I gave it away when I was like,
brilliant
maybe I
film,
should be a grown adult woman.
We should watch that.
I'm almost 50. You can have as many toys as you want.
I know.
There are toys of you, of both of you, right? In the world, there must be stuff.
You're gonna have toys soon.
I don't have a
There must
toy
be a
with me.
Funko of you by now.
There will be. He's gonna have
That
I'd
sounded weirdly
do this.
insulting, and I apologize.
what? No.
Funko.
Funko. Yeah.
I had to do a thing the other day. It wasn't the other day. It was about a month ago.
Did they
where-
get a scan?
Yeah, they stuck me on this green giant pizza type thing that like span around, and I had to hold this pose as this little guy just turned it incrementally.
Rotated
and they
you.
took pictures. God, it was so embarrassing with about 40 people watching you. You know, like scratching their balls, and
Why are they doing that?
because that's the effect I have on.
Oh, right.
on men.
But they're emulating
As
your
soon as
pose.
they
Yeah.
see me, they just want to touch their balls.
Well,
How long does
That's not true.
I'm
by
going
the
to
way.
veer away from that one. The sugar is really kicking in. I can
I'm
suddenly notice
jacked
how
right
many
now.
of these are missing.
Yeah, they're really good.
We were talking about that with the blood, I think.
Yeah.
And there should be a Funko of Daniel Plainview. We'll get there.
I would get that.
How long does something like that take?
What's
Just
that?
the scanning process.
Oh,
I'm fascinated by it.
2 minutes?
yeah, but too long for me because I just kept on laughing.
Yeah. So your guy's all blurred. I had that one. Remember, I sent you 2. I gave you 2 different guys of me.
I've got them.
Yeah, somewhere.
Well, your foot's fallen. No?
My foot broke off.
Well, yeah, your foot's fallen off one of them.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah. It's creepy. They're
It's
very
weird.
creepy.
It must be. I mean,
It's a bizarre
3D
thing.
scanning thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
You can make food. They can scan food. They can make food.
so what do they make it out of?
Don't know.
Just like a...
It's
is
like
it edible or replication food?
I don't know. Maybe
you
I
just
made
make
that up.
you
Did I
make
make
food
that
that you can put in a store window instead of actually putting food out every day. You can
No,
have
I
a...
feel like I heard that they were actually making like bread, but I think I made that up. Maybe I dreamt that.
But
That doesn't sound at all.
replicable bread. I think I would...
That's Star Trek. Isn't it?
Yeast,
Yeah.
Maybe yeast.
I think I made it up.
I don't know.
Don't
Okay.
think.
I think they
don't
can
listen
like
to me.
make fake food.
Well, the good news is I will give you guys a preview clip to this, like so you can listen to it beforehand. And
It's all just about the food.
we focus
The
entirely
3D
on
printer on the
3D
on the
printing.
new.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about There Will Be Blood,
Yes.
and the idea of Plainview as a hero, even if he isn't a hero, or a villain if he's a hero, or a
Well,
hero if he's a villain.
what makes a hero?
That's what's fascinating about it.
Yeah.
It gives you every argument. I mean, we see him do terrible things. We see him kill someone, but he's still our guy. Like,
We have empathy for him.
yeah, you're on side with him from the beginning, even
Why?
when you know you shouldn't be.
How?
Well,
What is it?
that's filmmaking anyway, isn't it? You spend 14 minutes with the guy off the top, and you feel, and you, as you said earlier about seeing somebody fall and seeing their determination, and you empathise immediately with them, and I think as an audience member we're told and trained that we must root for that person no matter what. But I also think, once you've spent some time and you get into the rhythm of someone's life, you can forgive them and understand them for anything in the same way that you can do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think we all do awful things sometimes, and we try to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that time I killed a guy
Yeah.
with in the forest.
I forgave you for that.
Yeah, he pretends to be my brother. It was
not a good scene.
tried to take all my oil.
Yeah.
as long as it's research, I think it's okay.
Yeah. He was auditioning for the part of Daniel Plainview. Yeah, God. I don't know what it is about the performance. I don't know why I forgive him so easily and why I just want to watch. I just want to watch, and I have no...
Well, he's attractive. Alphas are attractive, like it's sexy. He does what he wants, and there's something so romantic about that.
I almost wonder too, like, if the decided lack of women entirely in it makes it easier for me to watch that and not be upset. Like, because we've watched movies recently where I don't even want to finish it because the female character in it is so patronizing or so upsetting to me. And there is no woman in this movie. There isn't a single woman in this film.
Apart from the little girl.
Apart from the little girl.
But
I wonder if...
the wife of the Sundays.
Yeah, but she doesn't say anything.
No, she doesn't.
They don't even cut to her.
That's right.
There's no female presence. And normally I would have a lot of... I would struggle maybe if there was a female presence, maybe that would put it into stark relief, but I don't have any issue with the film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't go well, this is offensive to me because there are no women in this. I'm I think I would be more... I don't know. What is that?
I wonder if it's just because that's the world that Anderson has created without apology.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a line excusing an absence or any kind of indication that there's other stuff that he wants you to know he's not putting in. It's just like Plainview. He doesn't care if you don't get it. He's just going to do what he does.
Yeah.
Well, it was a period of time. What was so amazing about watching him fall down that hole and the 2 deaths that happen, I thought about things that men in history have done and how they put their bodies on the line and for money and for success, or whether it be, driven for ego or just necessity, but just about how in history men have done ridiculous things, and that's what this film is also about. And it was a masculine world where guys would go off and risk their lives
But
for.
if they are talking about capitalism and Christianity, those places that women don't have a place in those structures.
No.
Yeah.
Those are solely patriarchal structures.
Yeah.
Like they don't. So the absence of them is actually.
It's in tune.
It's in tune.
Yeah, I mean, especially 100 years ago, even more so.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of thing that the world is about to change in a way that will make what he does more difficult. The telegraph is there, but newspapers are there, but radio, the expansion of information will stop robber barons. I mean, it did. That's what happened. He's at a point where that's the only time this movie could have been made. This is the only time this film could have been set. Is in a point where it is an exclusively male-dominated, ego-driven. He's God. Like he's creates his own religion in a weird way. Oil is his religion, and he's formed it in opposition to God.
Yeah.
And so he has no time for women. He has no time. They're all, but even other
They
people
don't even
are
exist. They
beneath
don't
him,
exist. Yeah.
They might as well not exist because he doesn't see them or pay attention to them.
Yeah.
But there is no analog, right? Like, again, we come back to the idea that there isn't anything else like this that I can point to and say, like, Lawrence of Arabia was knocked last year by idiots who made a video saying, there are no women in this film. It's like, yeah, we know. It's kind of the point. The only women in Lawrence of Arabia are the ululating women in veils and burqas in the background of one shot as he rides up. Oh my God, it's
I know. There's so many movies.
Yeah,
I
it
haven't
is.
seen.
Yeah.
Wait for a theater.
Yeah.
70 mil, only way. 4K restoration is pretty good, but just...
Right.
That was shot in the Wadi Rum. They shot a film in the Wadi Rum desert
Did you
where
really?
they shot it. Yeah.
Which one?
It's the Goldsmiths. You heard that, right?
I think the camera... I think the mic cut it.
Yeah. It's a great.
It's just such a magnificent setting, or whatever it takes
It's
to get
beautiful.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Huh. I'm all thinking. Yeah, go.
I was going to say something, but I can't remember what.
Capitalism, Christianity.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
I was going to talk about the ego of these men, and because actually Eli and Daniel Plainview are very similar characters. It's all about them. It's about them feeling like they are achieving something.
Yeah.
They are getting validated. But I don't know, like.
Well, Eli wears a suit, and Plainview is really doing it. I think that's why Plainview susses him out as weak immediately,
sure.
because he knows he doesn't really believe. Mm-hmm. It's a con.
It's a con.
And Plainview,
because he wants the attention, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he wants.
Oh, he relishes it. Just the sense that he's getting audiences with people, and that people are listening to him, and that he has the power.
Yeah, he has
the
power.
pulpit.
Yeah.
It's craven, right? It's purely for his own enrichment, beatification, whatever you want to call it. He's doing it for himself. And Plainview, I think he's doing it for something else that we don't understand.
Yeah, we don't get any backstory of him really.
Yeah.
He is birthed.
Yeah.
At the beginning, and that's who he is, right? There's
We don't even know that that's his name. It's just what he calls himself. I mean, once he comes out, he could be something else.
Yeah.
We do know his name's Daniel Plainview.
Why?
Oh, guys,
Why?
Because his brother comes and says.
His brother's lying.
I know, but he says I need to see documentation, and he talks about where he's from.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And he also talks about his father, because his dad's had 2 relationships. I feel like he's a very damaged man from his childhood, and that we see a man that's unable to love, or at least feels like he isn't deserving of love, nor can he love, which is why the relationship with the boy is completely brilliant, because it forces him to love, and he does love him. But he actively makes choices. He's one of those guys that plays a martyr, actively makes choices not to be happy.
Mm-hmm. You feel that at the end, specifically.
He's completely broken. With that scene where he sends his son off, all he wants to do is get across the table and kiss him and love him, and instead he breaks himself. he hurts himself in the most in the most damaging way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a thing you can't take back.
Yeah.
Why does his son go deaf? What is that?
Because the...
No, I know why. Yes, that's the one plot point I got.
Oh, right.
But, I mean, why?
What
Like,
do you mean?
what is that?
Why?
I mean,
What does it
why?
serve?
What's that?
What does it serve?
What is why deaf? Like,
I think Plainview's voice is his greatest strength. He can make you believe anything, and if you can't hear him, you can't fall for it.
All right, that's cool.
That's
Wow.
very cool.
Was that just off the top of your head?
Yeah, pretty much.
Was it really?
Yeah, that's what I do. I feel the movie back at people. It's
It's
my
that's
strength.
super cool.
It's the thing that makes the most sense, though, like logically, emotionally, that a writer would go that way. And also because I think so much of the film is visual and stark and has no dialogue, or has less dialogue than maybe the average movie does. Those long stretches, it reflects that sort of isolation in a weird way. Like back at him, and he can't handle the idea of someone who he can't make believe him.
Yeah, also
Well, I feel like it's a different relationship with this boy. I feel like what the deafness does in terms of Daniel Plainview as a character is it gives him a huge obstacle. As an actor, I'm constantly looking for obstacles because it's interesting to see people struggle through something.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of Daniel Plainview and his relationship with his son, what it is a huge obstacle because the deafness forces him to care for somebody even more.
somebody needs him even more.
Someone needs, and he wants to. He wants to care for him, but he's ill-equipped to do so,
Right.
and we see him break further. You know,
It's also you can't be selfish when you have a kid who can't hear.
yeah,
You can't. Your world is about that.
yeah. He
Like
can't,
it's being a parent, right? Your world changes when you have a child. Like you can't be off, doing your thing. You have to. That your life is about that person.
yeah, and so he sends him off to this orphanage, and it nearly kills him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Even though it's more commonplace then, people did it all the time if you had a difficult job or you were alone. But yeah,
there's
it's
that
still
beautiful scene where he goes, "How big is your room? How big is his room?"
Yeah.
Just can't let him go.
But also as if that is like that will make me feel okay.
yeah.
Oh, his room's big. How big is it? Okay.
But it's
It's surface,
it's
obviously.
emotionally. He's emotionally immature,
Stunted, yeah.
Stunted,
So he's-
and that's how he expresses. Daniel does this fantastic thing where he's constantly, especially when he's in a moment of love, it looks like his head is going to explode because he doesn't have the vocabulary emotionally to get it out. Not in terms of like speaking, but the way that he can process it, even in himself. He's like his eyes are about to pop out of his socket.
Yeah.
But maybe
Because-
that is it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on.
No, but maybe that back to that too, like in connecting those two ideas, that there is something about him that is doesn't trust himself as a father to be. I don't know. I'm trying to cut off his like.
I think it's scary for him.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's made a choice in his life that he's not worth loving. He can't love. He says that he doesn't like people and he can't. But as soon as his brother arrives,
Yeah.
as a replacement for his son, he's just he loves. He needs. He actually needs that. It's a lie. He does like people.
But he hates himself for it.
He hates.
And you can see him pulling back even as he extends humanity with his brother. He's just like, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like what it does to him. Maybe that's it. If you tell yourself you have no use for people enough, maybe you don't believe it, but you act to protect that idea, which seems to be his other thing. Like when he's able to reach out to people, that's when he won't do it. With his son, with his brother, with any other human being, with Paul F. Tompkins, there's a moment where you can simply say, oh, okay, I'll come in. But no, that's just the refusal of human contact. I will not come in. I refuse any dealings.
With this little girl too, he takes her over and he's like, "Your dad won't do that, or
Won't hit you.
Won't hit you anymore." And then he goes, "Get out of!" Like he gets like, "Get the hell out of here!" Like it's something really harsh. He's like, "Get out of here!" Like it's like so quickly. Like
Yeah, I
Gone.
did the thing that I did. I
Yeah.
regretted instantly. I immediately...
I gave a little bit of myself.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that he regrets it. I just think it's that he can't handle it.
The intimacy of...
I think, yeah, that he can't handle. It scares him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a lot of men. I think incredibly stunted, and this is around. I imagine he sings a Gaelic song at some point to the kid, and that might just be Daniel Day-Lewis because he lives in Ireland and knows a song, and he's like, I know this like little song, but let's say that he comes from the UK at the time of Edwardian Britain, where emotions are so tightly wound and taut, and everyone is completely suffocated in terms of their love, especially men. Mm-hmm. Such rigidity and fear, and we still have that in the UK, and I feel like it's actually an epidemic in men and masculinity right now. We're paying the price for it,
Yeah.
It's men who commit suicide because they're unable to express their feelings. We are not geared or told how to process our feelings, and he is that entirely. He kills himself. That's what he does. He's so desperately unhappy because he's unable to express the love that he has, that he that last whole section, he's dead. He's an alcoholic who, we see him give himself put the noose around his neck when he says those horrible things to his son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's shooting himself in the head. It's all about self-loathing.
It's a process of extinguishing himself.
Yeah, and then the final thing he does is kills somebody.
And then he says, I'm finished.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
We assume at this point, anybody who listens this far in.
Yeah.
But that I'm
If
finished, that
anyone is still
croak is
listening.
just so... Oh, they're listening. This isn't even the longest one this week. You'll be fine. It is that last croak of I'm finished is so much... It's an exhalation for him. He's just letting it out. But in the audience, you get to go home. Like, you've been trapped with him for 3 hours, and when he says I'm finished, that's when the movie releases you, which I find...
He lets you go then.
Yeah. Like, it's over. He is stopping. So whatever
and
happens...
then that orchestration comes in, that really like... like,
almost carnival-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, you watch the show, you can go now, it's okay, it's over. I find that amazing.
Oh, that's so interesting.
You can come out exhilarated after watching a man bludgeon another man to death. And it's not the high point of the film, but it's like, wow, you're out now. It's incredible. That's Anderson. He's just this, the same way that Boogie Nights opens with that sort of sick, sad carnival music. Mm-hmm. And this almost feels like that mirror image of it, where it's ending that way because now... And that's Kubrick too, like ending Clockwork Orange with happy music, what's the other one? Eyes Wide Shut has that carnival sound to it as well. The music, it's an acknowledgement from the filmmaker that you're like, my job as an audience member is over. It's okay now, you're done. But it just jarred. When I saw it the first time, it was like being physically thrust out of my seat. It was great. It's just so weird to go out on that high, but it's a high. He got what he wanted.
Yeah,
kind of.
He does that, doesn't he? He also gives the audience what you ultimately want. Mm-hmm. Boogie Nights.
God, Magnolia just ending on a smile, the possibility of happiness, which is this thing that David Koepp said once that I've never forgotten about. He doesn't think there's anything interesting about ending a movie with happiness, but if you end on the possibility of happiness, the audience will never forget you. Mm-hmm. And Anderson gives you that in Magnolia, and Punch Drunk Love is all about removing the obstacles to being happy and being complete. And weirdly, that's one of the films I thought of with The Other Half, is that they're both films about people who only work together and who separately... I mean, they can function, but it's not satisfying or it doesn't enable them. In this, life doesn't work for them until they find each other. Mm-hmm. And Anderson somehow felt that, and then with There Will Be Blood, you have absolutely no hope.
No.
Like just the end of it. And you still come out happy.
Yeah, I never feel dark watching that movie.
Yeah.
I'm only buoyed, and I don't know why that is, if that's because there is no apology in it, because there's no judgment on him either. Actually, there isn't. It's just like very base human behavior that I think we all kind of can go, yeah.
It's
Like,
the
I
lack of
resonate with that.
It's the lack of apology for it. For his actions, and he's just doing it.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying.
And there's an immense sense of humor to it. Even in like, and like Daniel Day-Lewis brings a huge humor to that character.
He has a
joy in doing those
he
things.
just has an innate lightness of touch with his work.
Yeah.
You know,
But
it's
even
not
though he's so
even though he's so dogged and heavy,
Yeah.
it's so ethereal. You know, it's just so light and floaty and so unpredictable, and it feels like he's always like skipping up on something, like he's kind of playing the best jazz, you know, like
Yes.
and just riding on something, and none of it feels premeditated, or you know.
He doesn't say any, like, I can sometimes when I was listening to his inflection in the music in his voice, and he never says anything like any other actor would say it. Like the line, like, what was the line that was just, yes I do, what did he do instead of like,
Oh, that's right. At the
At the end, he goes, "Do you
accept the blood of Christ?"
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I
But
know."
it's like, it's just like da da da, like the weirdest
Yeah.
inflection, so obviously not premeditated, just like flowing from a huge sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what makes it so compelling, is like this guy who holds this huge weight, who's a murderer, who's a drunk, like who hates human beings, and I'm laughing and I'm like thrilled and I'm.
But isn't that what cinema is? I mean, and stories, isn't it a chance for us to escape and watch the kind of people that we know are so wrong, and we get to spend some time with them, you know, from the it's not, but from the mundanity of being ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And being good and nice and behaving, and it's so fun to see somebody do the opposite. You know, it's just you know.
Yeah, and distancing it by putting it in period, by making it not now, makes it okay too, because you can walk out of the theater trying to get your Plainview voice going, and no one's going to think you're actually a danger to them.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, like something like Trainspotting, where everybody was saying, "Oh, Begbie's my favorite character," and you're like, I don't know if I like you. That's a dangerous presumption, because you can relate on the immediate level.
You've never just chucked a pint over a balcony?
One time, I felt bad about it. That's my whole point. My first time in England.
I did all the time.
See, that's the lesson of Begbie.
Yeah, exactly.
Never apologize. But yeah, Daniel Plainview is so much of a larger-than-life foghorn, leghorn, peacock kind of character. It would be wonderful to just go home and talk like this for 40 straight hours. I'm sure I can do it. You want to do it. You're enthralled. You're seduced.
Yeah, totally.
You're on his side.
Yeah.
Even before he speaks.
But do you not think there's a little bit of Begbie in all of us?
Well, yeah, but I don't want to be him. I can understand the impulse. I can recognize the rage.
I don't want to be him, but
if you come out and go, "Oh, that guy was the best. I really like the way he approaches life." I mean, there are no good characters in Trainspotting.
But is it wrong to enjoy?
No. That's the vicarious pleasure of
enjoy watching him and the things that he does.
Yeah.
Because when he threw that pint, I remember the first time I saw it, I was thrilled and terrified, and you know, I just hated him all at the same time.
Right. But you knew to hate him. That's the bit that I'm saying. There are people out there who, a couple of people I know said that was amazing, and he was a liberating character. And it's like, well, in the movie, yes, but the movie also tells you that he's a bad person who will kill you. So you kind of want to take away both lessons.
And so you feel that by putting Begbie in a oil mine in 1901,
but that distance is enough.
That distance makes it enough
to make it. Yeah, I think it's okay to carry it out of the theater in that way, the way that you do with Plainview, where he's. I guess what it is
because he's larger than life.
Because he's larger than life, but also because, given the movie's setting, he's I'm not going to meet him around a corner. I'm not going to run into this guy in the world. So part of that, there's a fantasy aspect of it that makes it okay for me to. I guess idealize is the wrong word, but to embrace Plainview in a way that also Begbie's not the hero of Trainspotting. He's not the central character. He's the devil. He's the one who shows up every now and then and makes things worse for people. This is what I call my Peter Mullen rule.
But it's funny because Robert Carlyle's career was made off that.
Absolutely.
Role because so many people enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's a great performance, and it's a terrific character. But what I'm saying is that if you come out of Trainspotting thinking that Begbie's the best and I want to be Begbie,
yes, no, that's an
unrelatable
I agree. That is
chasm.
And I don't want to be Daniel Plainview.
Right, but it's okay to imagine it because it's something you could never be. It's something that's so completely
For sure.
But it's so, like, not to get super political, but you like watch Trump and you watch that performance and it's like you can't take your eyes off
There is
of it.
morbid fascination.
There's absolute and like the deep need in me not to watch the inauguration in order to not be an added YouTube hit on that or da 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 da. But like, but it's an interesting, like, because didn't this happen when, like, wasn't Plainview like basically at the same time as the war?
Well, it emerged, yeah. It was released in 2007, so it would have bubbled up around the time, I would assume they started working on it when Bush was reelected in 2004. Or at least that's when Anderson thought of it.
Yeah.
Or started into it.
And how long was Daniel Day-Lewis? He was 2 years in prep?
That's what they, year and a half to 2 years.
2.5 years. God, imagine being able to do that. So yeah, it must have been around 2004, wasn't it?
It was, I mean, I'm sure it's in the air. And oil being the center. I mean,
and Christianity and like religious
evangelical
extremism, right?
Well, for sure, because also the war in Iraq had just happened. George Bush had literally called it a crusade.
But that is the common, that is the marriage of these two things that in this movie are fighting for dominance.
Right, yeah.
And it's only in the uniting of the two of them that now, like, that's America,
we
right?
have
like
the world that we know, yeah.
Especially in that part of the world.
That's right, it's set in Texas, mostly. I mean, there's this great story.
No, it's not set in Texas,
it's set in LA, or in California, isn't it?
It's set in California.
Oh, sorry, they shot, this is the thing that I always remember, they shot in Marfa. At the same time, it's in Texas, the same time as No Country for Old Men.
That's right. Apparently, in one of the shots, that
you can see an oil tower.
There's an oil.
No.
They were doing a test.
Yeah.
Of the that incredible special effect where it goes up.
The geyser.
Apparently, John and Ethan Coen are filming this. It's this like plume of smoke.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
They actually
had to shut down filming for a couple of days.
It's amazing. Those two
cool.
films came out of the same physical space too. It's so fascinating.
I know, and they were both up for Best Picture when they
2007.
2007.
And there are statements like those are the last films released, or Oscar contenders, I guess, from the Bush era, because Obama would be elected in 2008 when Slumdog Millionaire won, which is this great weird echo of a film that was already finished before the election, but that suddenly that becomes the thing that everybody rallies behind. That was so great. It is like this weird. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe There Will Be Blood is so interesting on a metaphorical level because it is like the origin story of America when it was made, of that America. Oh, cool.
But to think of the two of them fighting is so counter to, like, nowadays they're intrinsically linked, right?
Well, that's it. Back when there was still the possibility of one of them winning, instead of just grudgingly sort of cats cradling themselves together.
Well, that's why Eli and Daniel are kind of very similar people because they are both businessmen. It's about bringing people into the church. It's about Daniel making money. And that's what has happened in America. Religion has become so twisted into. I feel like the people running the church aren't Daniel Plainviews. They're the same. I'm just basically repeating what you just said.
Yeah, Eli fails because he's not good enough at disguising his intentions. Otherwise, he can fool almost everybody.
I love it when he turns up with that new suit and the slick back hair. This guy who the truth has risen to the top.
But he can't quite hide the flop sweat.
That's
Not at all. He's dripping.
I love it that he goes, because Paul was the smart one, because Paul is the honest one. Paul came to me from the beginning and laid his intentions out. You're both despicable, man. But at least Paul was honest about it.
I just I want to read the script. I want to know what was scripted and what wasn't. Because to me, Daniel Day-Lewis flows so easily between what I assume is improvised dialogue and scripted dialogue.
Yeah. And there's enough time in scenes where it could simply be letting it run for 2 more minutes, or just letting something happen and then getting back to the dialogue.
You watched a thing on YouTube which was Daniel Day-Lewis breaks out of character.
Oh, yes.
He doesn't.
He's not really, right?
No.
Like, he kind of just calms down.
At the end, he just has a little laugh.
He like smiles a little,
Yeah, but that scene is complete. That take is just worlds apart from the take that was in the film, including the timing of the drinks,
the music,
everything. Yeah. The guy brings him the drinks. In the actual film, he goes, "We were here before then," and snatches the drinks off him, and he does that great bit where he throws the
thing on his
handkerchief over his head.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it was improvised, but there's key moments like the milkshake bit that comes from a testimony in some court case.
Yeah, so I think that might even be in the book. In Sinclair's book or somewhere. I know it's an old citation.
I think he found it in his research. I think I've read something quite cool. Paul Thomas Anderson, every Wednesday night during the edit, they would drink steak and drink straight vodka.
Oh God!
To get into their Daniel Plainview head. Isn't that brilliant? And I was like, that's such an interesting thing to do, because what's interesting about that is I kind of get the sense that Paul Thomas Anderson isn't a director that sits around the edges, kind of telling people where to go. I feel like he obviously feels that he needs to be as much Daniel Plainview as the actor is, as Daniel Day-Lewis. He is the story, and so he eats and drinks like him, even in the edit. He needs to be channeling the character.
But he knows he can only do it once a week.
Once a week, But he inherits that from Daniel Day-Lewis. I thought that was really interesting, because I've never heard of another director doing that.
Yeah, not living that.
Living it, completely.
That's super sensual too, isn't it? Like the steak and the alcohol. Like those are like, it's a sense. It's a sense of what that man's breath would be and what his
hangover would be like. Or even if he has one, like how you function through it. Yeah, that was the first thing I thought. Is like, he must have been terrible on Thursday, but you would learn. Like, that's something you would take with you.
Yeah.
This is so at odds with the person. I met him once. Anderson. He came for the TFCA dinner in 2000 when we named Magnolia Best Picture. He came for the January. It was the coldest night. It's always the coldest night of the year, but it was this little Italian restaurant on St. Clair West, and there were 30 of us, and it was so cold outside that when he went out to smoke a cigarette, you could just see him dying slowly. But he was interested in everybody's conversation. Like, he was just always watchful, and he participated, but he was really clearly watching the dynamics of all these people he had never met before, or who had interviewed him once or twice. And it was just, I watched him watching them, and it was great. It was just this really kind of cock his head a little bit to listen better, or watch something, or see who came out with the cigarettes with him. I don't smoke, so I would not go outdoors. I came out once to tell them it was time to come inside, because they're from California and they don't know what they're doing to their bodies.
They need to.
Yeah, it's like, come on. And no jackets either. Just like, the ash will keep us warm. No. But it was like, she's someone I admire immensely. And he hadn't even made this yet. Or Punch Drunk Love, which are probably my two favorite films of his.
Punch Drunk's great.
It is so good. And finally on Blu-ray, Criterion. Finally,
It's Criterion have got it.
October, just came out.
Awesome.
And it's great. But it was so interesting to watch him then make these movies, because they're not like Magnolia's. It's getting there. It's a little impressionistic, and the transition stuff in Boogie Nights shows that he's being playful. But like Boogie Nights is his Scorsese movie, and Magnolia's his Altman movie, and Punch Drunk Love is a thing that has no precedent, and then There Will Be Blood is Kubrickian, but he's using it to his own purposes. I just like what he's doing now is so different from what he was doing then, and that evolution has been just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, because I think the thing about There Will Be Blood, I don't necessarily understand it. Like, I don't have a great filmic vocabulary in terms of being like Kubrick. I couldn't say, but I enjoy it. there's something inherently that I really love watching, but also with the Master, I don't know, I don't understand it. But I love it.
Yeah.
But it's his evolution is really clear, and he seems like a director who's really willing to scare himself and push his boundaries and challenge himself to be different or better. And
such different worlds that he inhabits.
he gets braver and braver and braver,
Yeah.
I think.
And he builds them too. That's the thing I find fascinating. He's made, 2 films that are, Hard 8, I guess, 3 films that are contemporary, but most of the movies require complete construction. Like he had to build the world of the Master. He certainly had to build the world of There Will Be Blood, and Inherent Vice is all this elaborate recreation of 70s Los Angeles.
No, I haven't either.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's, again, unlike his work, but it also isn't. And it has just magnificent work from Josh Brolin and Joaquin Phoenix.
He's superb, Josh Brolin, isn't he?
Yeah, really undervalued. Like even now, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I think it's just because he looks so square. Like he has that almost caveman bearing that he brings. It works. It's part of his role in Inherent Vice, and in Gangster Squad 2, which is a film that no one has seen, but which
No.
it's like kids.
I've seen it.
It's like kids remaking The Untouchables, but it's really interesting. Like Ryan Gosling does this weird 40s movie voice, and
Oh, really?
yeah, it's not. You can't dismiss it, right? You can't write it off. There's stuff in there that's choices are fun and weird, and then there's what Sean Penn is doing, but
Different thing.
it's his deal.
Huh.
We kind of mentioned the other half as an analog to Punch Drunk Love in a weird way, emotionally. At least that was my backfilling of it. So is there anything that you guys have taken from There Will Be Blood? That's the final question of the podcast, is what of this movie has made it into your DNA, or what have you stolen or borrowed or referenced for yourselves?
Oh, great question.
Does it ever come up?
I feel like for me, since I saw it, it changed the way I saw acting. Like it changed. It just opened up something different in terms of character, in terms of like that freedom and that play, and the thrill of doing it. Like there's something about watching somebody who obviously loves it so much and he's so meticulous about it, and he cares so much about the work and really being someone else, really discovering someone else. I feel like it's entirely, I do reference it constantly, whether it's watching it again or just watching, like we've talked about, one scene. And I do it with Women Under the Influence too. There's certain touchstone films that just like will bring me back to the pure joy and love of watching film. And to me, this film engages me every time. It engages that love of cinema and of storytelling and of performance and character. Like I don't even know what it is exactly that I take with me, but it is just that it's like a button. It just turns on that button.
Yeah.
Like a reset. Because we went back. I went to set the day after we watched it, and he was in my head all day when I was working, even though it wasn't. I was playing quite a contained character, and I was just thinking about him and thinking about Daniel Plainview and the stillness of that character, and yet the explosiveness of it. That it's fluid and also rigid.
Coiled almost.
Yeah, but also like very animal and very in his body. And I don't even know what it did, but it just was like just inspiring, just exciting. I don't know. You look like you want to kill me right now. Are you?
Why?
Yeah. Bane.
Yeah, that's more Bane.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so chilling when that video is
Funny,
just...
that, right?
Oh my God, isn't it crazy?
We just watched Fury Road again last night, and I'm still at odds with the idea that Tom Hardy can inhabit those, like this grandiose performance of Bane and this minimalist Max who says like 100 words in the entire
This is
picture.
one sentence.
And a few grunts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice the grunting until this viewing.
So many grunts.
How many noises he makes.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a commentary.
I know. I like
got
his grunts in what's the Nicholas Winding Refn movie? Bronson.
Oh, Bronson.
Yeah.
Yes.
His grunts are like It's like another soundtrack. I'm into them.
So is there a reference point for you?
Yeah, well, it's difficult because having watched it again this week, I feel like I can't remember what it was, what inspired me so much about it before.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm similar to Tat, really. And the more I've started to think more about making films myself, and so it was interesting to watch the way that Paul Thomas Anderson had constructed the film, and the kind of tapestry nature of it, almost non-linear storyline. I don't know what it is very linear, but the way in which he tells the story and lets it unfold. Yeah. It allows you space to go to it rather than the other way around. But most of the thing that I really that I can't stop thinking about is, again, same as Tat, is performance and acting. I feel like as a person, as an actor, whenever I watch stuff, I'm always into learning more, and it's a constant daily, minute by minute thing of challenging yourself and thinking about how to better oneself and being inspired and learning and trying that thing and then throwing the other thing out the window. And I think what was so exciting about Daniel Day-Lewis in this is, and we watched some interviews about his process afterwards, is his fearlessness in dropping into truth in moments, and how much fun he was having, and that you can play huge emotions and play huge characters. You can put on a silly voice and do a limp. You know, I mean, it's like acting less, no-nos.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
but that it's okay, actually. I feel like me personally, I've been bogged down in kind of this mumblecore realism, being really honest and true, and that's a process that I've been going through the last few years. It's about making sure that I'm honest and real and true, and actually sometimes that isn't the most entertaining thing to watch, and it isn't actually always the most true. We're huge in life. We feel things massively, and we're incredibly expressive, and we do speak with rhythm and beautiful and cadence and and musicality, like I'm doing right.
You're conducting,
right now, and it was inspiring to watch an actor have so much fun and have so much fearlessness and bravery in his performance, but not a moment of that performance. It's not a moment I don't believe as being connected or real or true. And I feel very deeply everything that he goes through, and so that was really inspiring. I'm off to play a Daniel Plainview character in a couple of weeks, and it's funny. Sometimes you watch something and go, I watched this for a reason. Like this is for a reason, and I'm excited to approach this very heavy character with as much joy and as lightness as I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's that's what I'm taking from it right now is. And I'm sure that when I watched it before I had the same response to it in terms of his performance. It's just nice to be reminded of it.
I also thought it was really interesting that, having seen it and built it up and seen it so many times, it's still has the same punch. For sure. When I watch it.
A friend and I, my friend is a fantastic composer, and we were talking about an album we've been listening to recently. In the first 4 listens, we listened to it, loved it, and then I just got really bored, and he got really bored of it too. And we were trying to work out what that is and why there are some albums that you can listen to that initially they're really hard work, but then you can just put them on and you can listen to them for 10 years and it never gets old. I've been listening to Bjork now for 10 years, and I think what it's about is an honesty and a truthfulness and and I feel like that film, and I think Paul Thomas Anderson is a filmmaker anyway, he searches very deep inside himself and he challenges himself, and he's not trying to make something that we've seen before. He's challenges himself to make the film that he wants to make, honestly. And you know, he immersed himself apparently in research in oil, and you know, he just literally, you know, smothered himself in black oil. Just researching the world. That he made a film born out of that, with no expectations for anything, and it feels unique and honest, and that's why you can revisit that film over and over and over and over again, and it'll keep on giving and surprising, because each moment is thought about. You know, it's not contrived in any way. It's not pretending to be anything else other than There Will Be Blood, and there's no other film like it apart from Kubrick. And that's exciting, I think.
And I think it is also that, back to the honesty thing, I think the reason why I can watch Women Under the Influence over and over as well is that because they're so alive in that moment that's happening, it won't be dated. It can't be dated. Yeah. It can't be, because it's a stylized piece, but it's still about the actors being present in that moment. And Daniel Day-Lewis is so present with his scene partners and is calling them on all their shit and in a mess of whatever he's going through, and like letting it out. There's no selfishness to it.
He doesn't seem to listen to himself or censor himself.
He's putting it over there, and that's why it comes out weird, and it doesn't, and it's like odd inflection, because there's no self-consciousness, weirdly.
Yeah. He allows himself to surprise himself.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring, because, you know, I find as an actor, you always, the first time you read a scene cold is the best you'll ever do it, because you're reading the lines for the first time, they're coming out loud, you're surprising yourself because you don't know what's next. And then what happens is you have to learn the lines and you have to get them into your head, and then you kind of sometimes fall into rhythms. And I mean, as you get more experience, you learn not to do that.
Right. But your inclination is going to be to prepare.
Yeah. Of course, and to kind of go, well, this is what this means. But he just seems to have he seems to surprise himself and make himself laugh at times. You know, you can see him laughing at himself, that he's so surprised at how something came out. And it's joyful. I mean, it's a guy at the top of his game, and it's I'm excited to try it, and to play with it as an artist myself. So watch out, Daniel Day-Lewis.
My thanks to Tatiana Maslany and Tom Cullen, who are just the best people ever, and who are really, really great in The Other Half. Available on VOD in Canada today, and opening theatrically in the US this Friday, March 10th. You should also keep an eye on the Canadian Screen Awards this Sunday, March 12th, because Tat's nominated for 2 acting awards. She's up for Best Actress in Film for The Other Half, and Best Actress in TV for, that Orphan Black show. I would not bet against her. You can find Tat on Twitter at Tatiana Maslany, all one word, and Tom at Tom_Cullen. And you can find There Will Be Blood on DVD and Blu-ray from Paramount Home Entertainment. It's also available for sale and rental on iTunes and Google Play. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you want to leave a review on iTunes, that would be very kind of you. I don't know, maybe mention that the 2-year anniversary of the show is approaching and that you've really enjoyed it. That would be cool. And seriously, whenever you came on board, thanks for listening.